I've decided that I'm going to call you all my gatherers because at the end of every video I say, until next time, see you around, and that sounds like we're all on our own adventures, but yet we come together as a community. So hi gatherers, welcome back to my channel. September felt like a Two of Pentacles month for me. There were lots of balancing acts going on because it was a super busy month, chock full of a bunch of exciting things, which I will get to a little bit later on in the video. And if you want to read more in depth about those things, I will have a Substack article coming out tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And if you haven't signed up, it is free. There is a paid tier if you so choose to support it that way. I will leave the link down below to sign up if you would like to. But more than that, I would love to hear what theme came about during your September. Let me know in the comments below. What did it feel like to you? Moving on to our first segment here in my wrap up for September is the Oracle card of the month and a little journal peek. So this month from the Mystic Path Oracle here, I pulled Permission, and under here it says, live as you most wish, you hold the key. And paired with that is the Ace of Cups from my year ahead spread. So that was also my tarot card for the month of September. So here we have these spreads that I did for September. I know I said that August was my favorite layout last month, but I think there's something about September here that I really like and I'm drawn to. I think I really did a nice job collaging these pages, but September felt like a month of realignment for me. There was so much going on, but somehow I found a way to make it all work. I almost found like a rhythm from it. So my Oracle card of the month, Permission, really tied into that and reminded me that I'm not waiting for a door to open. I already hold the key and I am the key. I really have been connecting deeply with my ancestors this month, starting my journey in that regard. I feel like I'm finally on my true path and I'm clearer about what I'm meant to do. And I really feel like that's where the Ace of Cups came in. There was a aha moment after a month really entrenched in my ancestry and my roots and really starting that journey. It's going to be a long one. There's a lot to uncover with that, but I just really felt like the Ace of Cups was that moment for me of feeling fulfilled and feeling alignment within myself, within what I'm supposed to be doing. The work that I have to do now is to release any lingering fear or self-doubt. That came about when I did the Unlocking Permission spread here, and I did that more fully in my journal. That really helped me to uncover the fears and the self-doubt that I was placing upon myself, keeping me from fully realizing my path, my journey, what I'm supposed to be doing. So continuing to work on releasing that so I can walk forward in trust and abundance and everything that I want to do. It was a really beautiful month for me in that way. I really sat with that message. So I'm really thankful for Permission and the Ace of Cups this month. So now what I would like to do is pull October's message. It is such a lovely day here and I have the window open and all the motorcyclists and everyone's out and being really active. Don't know how much more good weather we're going to have, especially here in the last week. It rained like all week, so it was quite sad and gloomy. However, we are actually in a drought, so it was very welcome to have that rain, but it just really affected everyone's moods. So I completely understand now, having a very nice weekend as I film this, all the activities. So I do apologize if there's more road noise, and I do have to have my fan on. It's quite hot. I don't really want to have the AC on. It's just, I like the fresh air, so I do apologize about the noise. And now I'm going to put my focus on the card for October. Just want one card for October, please. Ooh, and we have here Moon Magic. Sacred cycles perpetually unfolding, conscious intentions flourish with time. What a great card for a month that has a lot going on symbolically, right? And it is paired here with the Knight of Cups is my tarot card of the month for October. So, very interesting. What do you feel about the card? What is your intuition saying it might mean for you for October and the upcoming month? Next, I want to go into the decks that I used in September, starting with the Fantasy Garden Tarot. I really love this deck and its illustrations. It truly feels like September to me, through and very true and honest to the month and the colors. This Queen of Swords, so beautiful, just feels like September. I don't know if I can explain it other than the colors just match up so well. I really had a good time using this for my daily draws this month. That's pretty much the only capacity in which I used this deck. I found that it was very kind and nice and straightforward. I don't know, there's just this artistry here that made me pause and reflect. I love this Two of Wands. The scale going on here is really nice. If I had to choose a card for working with this deck and what it felt like, it would be this Two of Wands. Just taking the time to reflect, look upon, even in a daily context, which can be really rapid and fast sometimes. I still really enjoyed pulling this out every day for my daily check-in to see what message the day had for me, what I could carry with me, or perhaps what I needed to let go or think on. The next decks I'm going to talk about are the Hush Tarot and Coastal Curiosities. This probably will not be a surprise to many of you because I have been talking about these as a pair. I worked more intensely with these, I will say, towards the second half of the month versus the first half, but I really enjoyed my time with it. I have mentioned this a few times now and it's hard not to repeat, but this is the way that these decks come forward for me, is that the Hush Tarot is very inward and a little mysterious and tends to go its own way. While I understand it and I accept it as it is, for those times where I might be struggling a little bit to see that right away, the Coastal Curiosities really comes through and gives me like a piercing North Star to focus on and go with. And so the balance of these two is very beautiful, very respectful. I would say that Coastal Curiosities is more summery for some. I really found that this matched up very well for or as a fall deck. Now, I will be using it beyond the season. I just find that it's going to pair well with so many more decks beyond the Hush Tarot as I have been experimenting, but there's just something about these two that they go hand in hand. They're almost like the perfect companions for me, and I will be sad to kind of set these two down and explore other decks this month. These two decks are really stuck in my mind and I'm not ready to say goodbye just yet, so maybe I'll continue using them here and there throughout October, but I have other focuses for that as we will discuss in the next section. If you have these two decks, I highly recommend giving it a try. I think that you'll find they are very complementary to one another, and if the Hush Tarot kind of trips you up, I think having something like the Coastal Curiosities, which is a little bit more straightforward and has a more known direction, I think that will help you a lot. The next two decks that I worked with are Shamanic Healing and Magical Creatures Tarot. I did talk about this a little bit in my haul video that I just released, and if you haven't had a chance to check it out, I will leave it in a card above. My favorite night practice has been these two, and I think I will continue using them. There's something about the messages that just really align, even though these decks might seem misaligned. Shamanic Healing is reverent and it feels sacred. Not that the Magical Creatures doesn't, but it's a little bit more playful. But I just find that those two mix really well. So every night I will pull from the Shamanic Healing cards first, and then, still while this is flipped over to the back, I pull Magical Creatures. Their messages just are so striking together. I find that they both have this really calming energy. I have the depth that I'm seeking with the Shamanic Healing, and then the cuteness from the Magical Creatures that brings a smile to my face, even with tougher messages. I have found that even though this is a right before bed type of practice, that it really gives me a nice journaling point as well. There's an energy between them that is really nice. And I think what helps is the Magical Creatures has a lot of color, and Shamanic Healing has hints of color in it. I think that they really go hand in hand. So this has just been a nice calming practice to do right before I go to bed. All I do is ask, like, what message needs to be known to me? What do I need to reflect on? What's something I need to change or do more of? Just a more gentle question and message. And last but not least is the Sasarai Beto Tarot, which moves us into our next segment segment because it is the deck that my gatherers, my subscribers here voted for me to work with in the month of September. And I've really been enjoying this practice. It makes me think about each and every deck that you vote on, and creatively, how can I work with it for 7 days, for 10 days, for 14 days, however long, and constructing a special practice surrounding each and every deck. And it serves almost as like a mini deep dive in a way each month. So I've really been enjoying it, and I thank you all for voting each month. For the Sasarai Beto Tarot, what I decided to do was work with it for 7 days. What's really unique about this deck for me personally is that it was my very first tarot deck in tandem with the classic RWS. I bought both at the same time, and both of them are my very first tarot decks ever. So this has been in my collection the very longest. I think I've spoken a little bit about how at first me and this deck didn't really get along, or it was more on me because I wasn't understanding. I was trying to learn the tarot rather quickly, and as we know, that's just not something that happens if you want to do it the right way. It's a lifelong journey that unfolds, and it only unfolds a piece of it when you're ready. And I didn't quite understand that yet, and so there was some friction between me and this deck. But for 7 days, I did an activity with it from the lens of reconnecting with this deck. So instead of getting to know it, it was coming back to it, reconnecting with it, revisiting after a long time, because it's been a long time companion, but I bring in new decks and I study other decks, and this one is always just kind of there. So I don't pick it up as often, even though I should. So the prompts helped me to listen, reflect, and be more in dialogue with the cards. Each day carried a specific theme, and I do have 2 of those themes up on my Instagram if you want to take a look back through. So remembering those patterns or noticing new patterns, connecting to shadow, and integrating specific lessons, remembering forgotten voices, even tending to the body, I think was a theme. So it felt less like studying this deck and more like sitting down with an old friend. What I discovered is that this still has new things to teach me, and I think that's an amazing thing. So I adore this deck now. I did even before this 7-day study, but I remembered why I was drawn to it and the beautiful artwork and some of the cards that kind of go their own way or depict RWS in a different way, like this 6 of Cups is a really good example. So it was a lot of fun reconnecting with this deck, and thank you all so much for voting. Do you have the Sasarai Beto Tarot? Let me know your thoughts on it. I do believe that Stasia still sells it on her Etsy, so it's just a very beloved and cherished deck in the community, and I put my stamp of approval on that sentiment. Okay, I'm going to move into the poll for October. Decks that I want to work with in October, but that I want you to vote on and choose one. Those decks are the Earthbound Tarot, the Folkloric Forest Tarot, the Burning Tiger Tarot, and the Serpent and the Peacock. I kind of feel like that's going to be a really tough decision, and I'm kind of glad I don't have to make it. I mean, that was part of the reason my theme was choosing 4 fall decks for you guys to choose between, because I simply won't be able to work with all of my fall decks. So thank you for helping me decide. I couldn't decide, so I put it in your hands. So go ahead and go vote, and I look forward to seeing which one wins it out. Now moving on for my deck plans for October. These are the decks that I want to work with in the month, and I want to start off with the Oracle decks, and the first one is the Arcana Folia, which I did recently see is going to be coming out mass market, which is really awesome because I find this to be a really versatile deck, and while it's good for everyday use, I think I have a purpose, a more specific purpose for this deck now. I think I would like to work with it in a more ritual setting. I think that overall it feels aligned in that way for me. I think many of the messages and how that the artwork is, I mean, it's simplistic in many ways, but it just feel a sense of ritual, wanting to work with this deck in a ritualistic way. I want to pull it out and test it in that way, and also just work with it alongside other decks and other cards. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It just feels like an activity type of deck, one that you need to do more with than just pull a card. I think part of that is the little phrase down at the bottom. So we have thoughts, cultivate your ideas. So that to me is very action based. We can't just have magic or do things without action. So I think this is going to be a great way to connect me to that ritual a little bit more, and I'm looking forward to it. So US Games actually is the one that picked this up. I'm not sure when it will be released. If I find any more information, I'll link it below in my resources section in the description. The next oracle that I really want to work with this month is When Olga Speaks. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I have been connecting to ancestor work more deeply. I'm really set set on that being one of my winter activities. I think I'll be doing a more in-depth video on what I'll be doing in the darker months, just an overview, so you can kind of see what kind of videos might be coming out during that time based on those. So I look forward to sharing more in that way with you, but I really want to connect with Ancestry, and what better deck to do Ancestry work with than When Olga Speaks. I feel like I have a better direction since connecting with and starting this journey on Ancestry, so I feel like it's not as up in the air. Like, of course this deck has a very strong theme and purpose, and it's beautiful, and it can be worked with in other ways, but it just feels really aligned and right for me to work with it in this way, especially as I've been dipping my toes into my own roots and background and ancestry. So yeah, I really look forward to working with it in that capacity, whereas before I would work with it in strictly more of an archetype sense, because there are archetypes in here, but now I can put it into the context of something a little bit more personal to me. The next deck might not be a super surprise because it is one that I just got in and I did a full video on it, so if you want more of those thoughts, I will put it in the cards. I want to work more closely with the Infinite Door. I was very impressed by the artwork and the surrealism. I just want to uncover what that's all about. I would love to do a deck interview spread with this. I'm just really curious about this deck, and I feel that it loves curiosity. Yeah, I just want to work more closely with it. I do not think I will be using this as like a daily draw type of practice. It's going to be very specific and nuanced, I feel. I still have to kind of build out what that will look like, what it will feel like. Yeah, I will report more on that in the next wrap up. But yeah, just looking forward to using a new deck that just came in, and one that has a very strong point of view. Next, I'm going to be spending time with a favorite of mine, and that is Santa Muerte. And I think you can completely understand why. We are moving into October, and by the time you see this video, it will be the very first day of October. So I really adore this deck, and I'm so excited to reconnect with it. I did work with it a little bit earlier in the year, but now I get to work with it in its devoted season, right? And that's super exciting. I think I will use this one as a daily practice, and maybe a couple more thematic specific readings just to match with the vibe, but I'm really happy to be reconnecting with this. I just adore it. Just excited to pick it back up again. You'll have to let me know if you have Santa Muerte. I know it is another well-loved deck in this community, but even so, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has it. So I'd be interested to know if you have Santa Muerte and if you'll be pulling it out for the October Samhain season. And finally, a more pointed deck for specifically Samhain is the Beauty of Bones Tarot. And I think this will be really great timing, not only for the season, but because it is a more pippish deck, and of course because of my Marseille study, which in October, it is the last month. I think it will wrap up really nicely, especially as I move into the next phase. Stay tuned, because I'm going to be talking about my Marseille studies next. But Beauty of Bones, I just feel like in the last 2 weeks of October, this is the deck that I'm going to be using. This is the deck that I'm going to be using for a Samhain spread that I have planned, and that you will definitely be seeing, and I'm really excited about it. I love the theme. I love how it's photography of these of these things, which you can definitely look into even more. I will just say that that's something in my Marseille study that has come forward now more than ever: body and its relation to the tarot. I look forward to having that lens a little bit more with this deck. Oh, what a beautiful Empress card. So yes, this will be a very special deck to use at a very special time, and I can't wait. Also, I really haven't used this too much, so that'll be nice to do as well. Next, we're going to speak about my deep dive with the Marseille, and this month was a very heavy month. So I had to read chapter 5 through chapter 10. I had to track symbolic details, so colors, gestures, composition of Taroki by Mr. Freiburg. I wanted to reflect on the Fool's placement, since that was a big discussion within the book, and then journal about what my favorite cards are and why, and seeing if that changed from the first phase. So these chapters 5 through 10 really shift from introductory, talking about theory and history and Marseille in an introductory way, into practice. I really felt that change a lot in my own practice even. What is discussed is really focusing on the open reading, and instead of learning fixed meanings, I'm starting to notice how the cards interact with each other in a spread, directionality, the different body parts, what they're wearing or not wearing, the colors, the figures' expressions and their faces, the rhythm of the numbers, if there are any. Is there anything in common there numerologically? So it's not about memorizing, it's more about letting the cards tell the story and speak as a whole scene versus individually reading them in that way. This section also brings the minors into a more full picture. So at first it's just talking about the minors and what their specific meanings are, like a keyword, but then he guides us through small spreads, and then it expands into even bigger layouts like a row spread. And I'm starting to see how the minors aren't just like background cards, which is really cool. They give a texture and a nuance to a reading, especially alongside the majors. There are so many ways to pick apart each and every card, to study it, to sit with the reading and pull out messages that I wasn't even realizing before. I really appreciated his way of looking at the minors and the pip cards. So instead of thinking this card equals this meaning, which before is what I thought Marseille was, I thought it was more memorizing meanings, and numerology was a big word thrown around. And while those are important components, they aren't the only ones. And also, it's so much more about the bigger picture, and I'm a bigger picture person, so I feel like this reading style kind of just meshes with me really, really well. Going back to, instead of this card equals this meaning, it's more about the arrangement, the feeling, taking stock of the question, the energy, the querent, if you're reading for others or even yourself. What is it you're feeling? Noticing your body, your posture, taking that into consideration. Are the swords cutting across each other? Are the coins more balanced, or are they cluttered? The overall impression just adds so much. And definitely he spoke a lot about the court cards, and I think in any context, even if you're learning RWS, it helped me a lot. Even though I feel like I had a pretty good grasp on the courts, it just kind of helped to cement it. So the courts feel less like abstract roles, and they're more like a dynamic presence that moves a story forward, and that story being your reading. By the time I got to chapter 10, and it's so interesting because this ties into the oracle card, right, of the month, which was permission. I just felt like I had that permission to trust my intuition with the minors, not being so strict, or even needing those flashcards that I made earlier, which I think I still will have them pulled out, just as a reminder of all the different things that I can look at in a reading. There's so much that, you know, you can forget, but also if you are focusing more on one thing versus another, that's where you need to take your intuition. Lead with that. The meanings shift depending on the context, and you don't need to pin them down with a single definition or a single keyword. You can kind of let your imagination go wild. And then let's talk about the Fool. The book touches on the old question of whether the Fool comes first or last, and they talk about the different schools of tarot and what they deem is the position that they've chosen. Reflecting on that, my conclusion that I came to is that the Fool is neither, and yet both. So to me, the Fool is fluid. He moves exactly where he needs to be, even if he doesn't know it or why it's happening. Sometimes he's the leap at the very beginning, and other times he's the wanderer at the end who refuses to settle down, who wishes to start a new cycle, to continue bettering himself. So that sense of motion and fluidity really speaks to me right now also as I learn the Marseille, but also it's like there's structure, but there isn't. So in some regard, it's made it a little harder to let go of all the presets that I've learned with the RWS, right? But once you kind of get into that, it frees you up so much more. So overall, these chapters this month and the second phase has been about moving from simple major only focuses, which the majors still align with RWS a lot, but again, pulling in the faces, the figures, clothed, unclothed, directionality, the symbols they hold, looking at cards in thirds or halves or diagonals. That is very new to me in a lot of ways. Taking that and now working with majors and minors together, I'm really excited to move into phase 3 because we get to take all of this learning and we get to integrate it, put it into practice, do some pairings, trying spreads from the guidebook of Tarot by Mr. Freiborg, ones that I come across on the internet within this book, reading chapters 11 and 12 to finish out the book, focusing again on intuitive reading versus the memorized meanings. And then I think I want to pull out the squid cake. I know I said I put it away. I really want to do one question, both decks activity, and kind of see how they jive, what answers they give me, how they work together or not, and then do the Marseille and RWS side by side and seek like what comes out for me and my brain, what makes sense, what still doesn't. Again, playing with pairings, that's going to be a fun part. And then journaling about what about Marseille is sticking with me and what might need more time, because 3 months is a good introductory to learning the Marseille, but of course you need to continue doing it. Will I slip back into RWS only, or will I begin to pull out this deck and Beauty of Bones and Squid Cake a little bit more as I feel more comfortable. Pips aren't as scary, right? I don't know if I'm going to create the Marseille cheat sheet anymore because this book prides itself in the open reading concept. So I don't know if I'm going to be doing that anymore. Any notes that I want, I can just look through this book or in here where I've been keeping my notes. And then the last task is to film a wrap-up video. So that's what my Marseille deep dive looked like in September and what it's going to look like in October. And I will be so glad to talk more in depth about everything in my wrap-up video. All right, now I want to talk a little bit more about seasonally in the month, all the happenings and magical moments that have been going on and that I have tracked here in this journal. September was a super busy month. My daughter had her first day of first grade, and I actually ended up waking up late that day, so it was a mad rush. We still got in the, pictures of her on her first day, so I was thankful for that. And what a way to start first grade by having to rush. But she was a champ, and she came home and literally the first words out of her mouth were that she loves first grade, and I continue to hear it now, which is really nice because I know last year starting kindergarten everything was new. So now with first grade, not everything is new. There's parts and pieces that are new, and I feel like that's helping boost her confidence. When new things come along, she's more apt to just jump in and give it a try, and that's been really heartwarming to see. We also attended her first soccer game, and I gotta tell you, if you've never seen like 5, 6, 7-year-olds play soccer, it is such a hoot. It is really cute, and it's been a lot of fun. Of course, she's had more soccer games since, but I just wanted to note down that she had her very first game, and an added layer was it was done in the rain, of course. My best friend since high school came to visit me twice this month, which was really awesome. She came for my daughter's birthday, and then she came for a spa weekend, and we went to a salt cave, and then we did a sauna, and I had never done either of those things before. I think my favorite part was the salt cave, and I know it sounds silly to sit in a cave surrounded by Himalayan salt, and that the salt kind of, you breathe it in and you're surrounding it, and there's something about it. There's like very calming music. It has some color therapy going on in the cave. It's very relaxing and it's very nice. That was a really cool experience for me, something for the first time. And then, of course, my daughter's 6th birthday, we had a huge party at a local farm where they do a lot of different activities. A lot of her classmates came out, and it was really nice, a lot of friends and family, and it was very exhausting to prepare for, but she had a blast. It was a nice time. And then, of course, the last thing on here that I have written down is that I reached 1,000 subscribers in September. On the 25th, I woke up, just checked my channel as one does, and it said I had 1,000 subscribers, and I couldn't even believe it. I knew I was getting closer, but my mind is so blown, and all of the support that you have given me over the past year and a month has been very astounding, and I am so grateful for each and every one of you. It does feel wonderful, and truly I have a great community here, and I couldn't be more thankful for you all. And the last thing that I wanted to mention was actually something fun beyond tarot a little bit here. So I somehow found time to restart watching Outlander. I had watched the first couple seasons many years ago, and it's very fascinating, and I don't know why. I guess I'm just strange with TV shows. I'll binge watch until I reach a certain point, and then I stop, and there's a huge gap in between, and then I come back to it, and that is exactly what happened with Outlander. I will say that it does apply to my practice because Outlander is the push that helped me look into my ancestry. Of course, it's very much rooted in time and place and culture. The whole series is, especially, starting out with a strong Scottish lean. It got me curious about my own roots and has really sent me down a really interesting path. So not only is it a great series, it's got a lot of adventures, and you're just like, however are these characters going to get out of this scenario now, one after the other, it seems, but it's been an adventure, and without it, I really wouldn't have started my path in looking at my own roots and just thinking about life back in their times and what they might have been doing and practicing, eating, listening to what music, what was the vernacular, just very interesting stuff. That was the last thing I wanted to mention. So thank you all so much for spending this month with me. I want to know, what is your card or theme of the month for October? I want to know if you do like that kind of practice, whether you have an envelope practice or you do a year ahead spread. What's your card of the month. All of your engagement, from comments to voting on my polls, really helps shape this channel because it's really a co-created space. It's co-created between me and all of you, my wonderful gatherers, my subscribers. So thank you so much for being here. Stay tuned for what we get up to in next month for the wrap up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, it's October. And until next time, see you around.